Alright, enough time has passed, everyone. Jujutsu Kaisen spoilers for the manga as well as the anime for those who have not caught up. The fight has been over for a while now, and it's clear that Gojo is not coming back. No amount of theories and Buddhist symbolism is gonna bring him back. He is dead. And I wanted to make this video because now that we look back on this fight, how do we actually see it? Because at least for me, when reading it on a week-to-week basis, I was psyched. It was truly the most ambitious battle in modern-day shonen. Think about it. Gojo vs. Sukuna has been built up since chapter 2 of the manga, not to mention the 1,000+ days that Jujutsu Kaisen fans have had to endure without Gojo. Seriously, when you consider the amount of blue balling, it can't get any higher than this. And yet, when you look at the fight in hindsight, doesn't it feel as though we got trolled? Well, that's what we'll be talking about in this video today, guys. It'll be a quick, comprehensive review of the entire fight, as well as when and how it caught us off guard. My name is TK, let's get into some anime. Starting from the very beginning, Gojo kickstarts the fight with his strongest offensive attack, Hollow Purple. The only difference is that he uses it at 200% of its maximum capacity, thanks to Urahime's curse technique, which basically amplifies the curse energy of any targeted sorcerer. It hits Sukuna and burns off his arm, but overall, the attack doesn't do any long-term damage to Sukuna, which is interesting because isn't that what the entire fight has been about? Gojo pulls off all these insane curse energy gymnastics and whatnot, but in the end, Sukuna remains completely fine. We'll talk more about this at the end of the video, but for now, let's continue the fight. After the initial Hollow Purple, both of them sort of warm up by trading blows and attacks with each other. It's clear that both sides are pretty equally matched, which brings us to the big card, Domain Expansion. Now, the debates on which domain is stronger have also been around for a very long time. Is it Gojo's Unlimited Void or Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine? That was the question, and the question was very important because wherever we have seen these two use their domains against anyone but themselves, they have instantly won the fight. So what happens when Unlimited Void goes up against Malevolent Shrine? It's a completely even match, at least inside Gojo's domain. They simply cancel each other out. But the problem is that Sukuna's domain doesn't have a barrier, which makes it far more dangerous than Gojo's domain, because well, he can just destroy Gojo's barrier from the outside. That's what happens when Gojo's neck gets sliced. But getting your neck sliced is not a problem when you're Gojo, although it is a problem if you're still in Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine, and that is what's going on here. And what can someone do when they are getting cleaved and dismantled left and right? In Gojo's case, he takes it on like a champ. Just look at this panel of him smiling and grinning like a madman as he gets his entire body slashed. He also realizes that the source of Malevolent Shrine is not the shrine, but Sukuna himself. Good. This gives him a target he can take out. First, Gojo used a simple domain to get himself a moment and heal, but that doesn't last very long, so instead he goes completely on the offensive. Rather than healing himself, he trades blows with Sukuna, all the while restoring his burnt out curse technique using reverse curse technique. There does come a moment where he gets a hold of Sukuna with his legs and unleashes red on him at point blank range. Sukuna is blasted straight into the shrine and the domain expansion ends. Gojo uses the moment to heal himself properly. This is it, guys. This is where the fight picks up and the hype gets real. We have two nigh-invincible individuals spitting at literal laws of physics. I mean, do you know how the narrator explains Sukuna's domain expansion? Malevolent Shrine is different from other domains in that it doesn't create a separate space using a barrier. The narrator goes on and truly puts this into perspective by stating a very simple, easily understandable analogy. He states that the ability to realize one's innate domain without using a barrier is akin to an artist painting a masterpiece not on a canvas, but on air itself. A truly divine technique. There is no other way to go about it. When it comes to their domain expansions, Sukuna is clearly one step ahead. His domain is an entirely different tier altogether. But let's not sell Gojo short. After this domain clash is over, Gojo talks Sukuna into using his maximum range while he himself opens his domain once again. Though of course Gojo is too smart to just do a repeat of last time, and so he spices things up a little bit. What he does is that he reverses the outer and inner conditions of his barrier. The reason his domain lost last time was because the barrier was weak to outside attacks, but this time it isn't. The barrier is weak from inside but strong enough to guard against Sukuna's onslaught from the outside. But then again, Sukuna is no slouch either. As it turns out, he has put the full breadth of his domain's onslaught on the outside. This results in him succeeding in destroying Gojo's domain once again. No problem. Gojo defends himself against the malevolent shrine. He uses the falling blossom in motion technique to evade the slashes and then proceeds to open his domain for the third time. However, unlike the last two times when he was using his standard range, this time he enlarged his barrier just enough to cover all of Sukuna's range. He covers all of it and then shrinks the barrier to a size smaller than a basketball. Theoretically, it makes no sense, but Gojo is a mutant prodigy who somehow used his experience from his stay in the prison realm to cook up something like this. Alright, so how does Sukuna respond to this? He decreases his range to increase his attack potency, and guess what happens next? Nah, who am I kidding? We all know what happens next. Both Unlimited Void and Malevolent Shrine collapse at the same time. Sukuna destroys Unlimited Void the same way he destroyed it the past couple of times, while Gojo injures him to the point that he can't physically keep up his domain any longer. But while Gojo is getting the hang of it, he is a bit cautious. After all, Sukuna still had brought out Maharaga, or used his own curse techniques for that matter. The two of them activate their domains again, but the result is also the same. Though when they open their domains for the 5th time, Yuta and Higurumo notice something a little interesting. Sukuna is about 0.01 seconds late in opening his domain. Now, you see that this may not seem like much, but for Gojo, this was enough time to shatter Malevolent Shrine, and he was also inches away from crushing Sukuna's heart, lungs, and liver when Sukuna finally brings in his trump card. He summons 8-handled sword, Divergent Scylla Divine General Maharaga. Whatever, Gojo anticipated this possibility, and he was going to one-shot Maharaga before it can adapt to his Unlimited Void. However, for some reason, Maharaga had already adapted. How? As it turns out, Maharaga's adaptation was on autopilot, and Sukuna was having Megumi's soul bear the burden. Gojo is still fully intent on one-shotting Maharaga in Unlimited Void, but he is unable to open his domain. It is physically impossible for him to do so because his brain's prefrontal cortex is burnt out. Sukuna jokes about it and then tries to open his domain, but his domain collapses as well. Yep, I guess you could say both of them have run out of gas. Brain gas, if you will. The fight goes back to hand-to-hand combat, and even when Gojo uses his curse technique, he only goes with blue because he doesn't want Maharaga to adapt to his infinity as well. He also figures out that Maharaga needs 3 more spins before Sukuna can use them outside the domains. Big deal, he is just going to kill Sukuna before then, or so he says. After landing a few hits with blue, Gojo catches Sukuna off guard by hitting his back with red. He does it by having red circle around the building layouts. Yep, Sukuna does not see this coming. He then also punches him with a full throttle black flash. He knocks him out. Though for what it's worth, by this point Maharaga's adaptation was complete. The wheel falls and Maharaga materializes. Maharaga immediately slashes at Gojo's chest. Now Gojo knows that he wasn't guaranteed to win this fight, which is not very common for him because, well, he is the strongest. He briefly recalls his fight with Toji and gets even more excited. Gojo uses red, but Sukuna makes him miss. We then also see Sukuna using piercing blood, which obviously shocks Chozo. But let's not get into any conspiracy theories. He can use piercing blood thanks to Max Elephant Shikigami, and not because he is related to the Kamo clan. However, that's not even half of what Sukuna can do. The next thing you know, he brings out Fusion Beast Agito. It is an improved humanoid version of the Nue Shikigami, which itself is a combination of the Great Serpent, Tiger Funeral, and Round Deer. So now Gojo has to deal with 2 insanely powerful Shikigami in addition to Sukuna, which then in turn makes it a 3-on-1. By this point, Gojo's output isn't as good as it was in the beginning of the fight. Plus, considering how Maharaga is onto him, he realizes that he would have to take them out using Unlimited Hollow. He also figures out that he would have to one-shot Agito because for what it's worth, it can not only heal itself, but also Sukuna. Though it's not just Gojo who is figuring things out. As Gojo is focused on one-shotting Agito, his arm is sliced off. The problem is that the one who slices off his arm is Maharaga, and it did so using Sukuna's curse technique. Still, he goes through it and completely destroys Agito using blue. He then proceeds to ramp himself up by landing 2 black flashes on Maharaga. He also starts chanting incantations to further ramp up the attack potency. But what is this? He is focusing on red and not purple? Not only that, but he also fires red above. This leads to Sukuna screaming Maharaga's name because something has obviously gone eerily wrong. Okay, so remember the blue that destroyed Agito? Well, Gojo is about to merge it with red to make a hollow purple. Sukuna makes Maharaga try and intercept it, but it fails. He then uses piercing blood, but Gojo's incantations further amplifies blue as well. Just like that, blue fuses with red and gives birth to a pure destructive hollow purple nuke that destroys Maharaga along with a significant portion of Shinjuku. What about Sukuna? He looks like he isn't built for this. Gojo also suffered some damage, but nowhere near as much as Sukuna. Well, at this point, there are no two ways about it. Gojo did win. However, the next panel we see of the fight, we see him lying on the ground. His body has been sliced in half, dead, and he is not coming back. Right after everybody thought Gojo had won, Sukuna uses Mahoraga as a model to slice reality itself. So of course, Gojo also got cut. Now, there are plenty of Jujutsu Kaisen fans who argue that Sukuna's final move makes no sense. So if you're one of them, definitely share your thoughts in the comments section. As for me, I am going to say the same thing I did at the beginning of the video. This fight was just Gege trolling modern day shonen fans. Like, to have the fan favorite character be sliced in half off screen, and to have him glaze his opponent in the afterlife, it is simply not in line with Gojo's character, especially that shill about him not caring for anyone but himself. I love Nanami, but that is pure gibberish. I'd say Gojo should have returned to life for a few moments to somehow sacrifice himself and free Megumi's soul. That would have been a much more fitting end to this legendary character. Unfortunately, the way he died and how Sukuna undid all the damage makes his sacrifice seem meaningless. And then you have Kashimo, who met a similar end in the sense that it was completely meaningless. It's just Sukuna checking all boxes at this point. Hopefully Itadori and Higuruma could defeat Sukuna with the power of law and fists. All in all, this was still a very fun fight, and it gets better on a reread when you realize that Sukuna definitely wasn't taking it seriously when he got knocked out cold by Gojo's fist, when he got caught up in a literal purple nuke. Alright, jokes aside, do share your thoughts guys below. As always, I'm looking forward to them. Again, my name is TK. Let's continue to discuss this discussion in the comment section below.
満開千本桜影よし